All right, so we're going to go through this real quickly. The first thing is looking at home sales annually. And the thing that we want you to understand is recession is around the corner. Now, around the corner could mean in 6 months, it could mean in a year, it could be in 2 years. When you start hearing economists talk about recession and they start trying to predict when it's going to occur, what that tells you is someone's going to do something stupid and cause it. That's usually how it happens. So home sales are down, right? They're not down significantly. In some markets, they're even up. But if you look at the trend lines, what you begin to understand is what goes up goes down, what goes down goes up. So that's where we are. When you look at our pricing, this is kind of in alignment with what the U.S. government wants to see, and that is they want to see about a 4% price increase in homes on an annual basis. And unless my eyes deceive me, that's what?
That's right around 3%, Gary. So
there
we're
you
projecting
go.
right now for the year.
Yep, so about 3%. So that's good. That's what we want to see.
Hey, Gary, we've seen actually the first shift in prices go negative in one area. I know, was it the Case-Shiller index that Seattle is actually moving backwards now?
Yeah.
That could be an indicator that some parts of the country are actually going to see price declines.
Yeah, Seattle saw about a 1.2% year-over-year decline based on the Case-Shiller's top 20 index this past month.
We look at months of supply, and there you go. You're still in a seller's market.
Yeah, we expect that to start trending up, Gary, but it's still remained pretty low this year with, as we're going to see, interest rates have been really low. And despite the fact that home sales haven't picked up, we're still in kind of a two-market situation, right? We've seen things slow down a lot at the top of the market, but at the entry levels, things are still very tight in almost every city.
Well, a 3.6 trending up to 4.3 you now see that as the absolute direction we're going. When we look at mortgage rates, this is probably the surprise of the year, and that is everyone's refinancing their house.
Yeah, we're actually only about 25 basis points off the all-time low right now, based off of last Thursday's reading of about 3.6% from Freddie Mac.
Yeah, if we were betting money, I would have never bet that.
Yeah.
In a million years, I would never have said that interest rates are going to go that low. One of the interesting things that we have going on is in the United States is we have a president who tries to influence fiscal policy via tweets.
Yeah.
And we've never seen that before. And I don't know if it's good or bad, by the way, but it's interesting.
Yeah. When the Fed lowered rates, this past month, I was honestly expecting mortgage rates potentially trend up, because usually if something's good for, overall economic growth, mortgage rates will 10-year treasury rates will tick upwards. It's a longer term bond and mortgage rates will follow that. But then, the trade stuff happened and everything just sort of went the other direction. Now we're looking at mortgage rates potentially, getting even closer to those all-time lows.
Well, so it's interesting, just a reminder that interest rates are the Fed's tool to govern the economy. And they can use it to speed things up, they can use it to slow things down. When you see this happening right here, you do have a slight concern. And the slight concern is when you're now getting to potentially an all-time low or in that range of all-time low historically, then the Fed has no more bullets in their gun. In other words, we would be in the area of, oh crud, what do we do now to help the economy? So seeing it this low, it feels great to consumers, and when you and I love that, there's no question about that. Simultaneously, that's the other side that you just want to pay attention to, right? The thing that you would always tell a buyer, and that is, there's always a good time to buy the right piece of real estate, regardless of the economy and regardless of interest rates. And historically, since the beginning of time, that has proven to be 100% true. And all you would say is just be aware that this is at an all-time low, right? If you want to buy, this would be a great time to lock in a mortgage. Unemployment, well, you can see the trend line, so nothing needs to be said about that. It's one of the things that actually drives the purchasing of homes, right? And that is people have jobs. So this is a good thing. But again, we're at a historical low. The odds of it staying there are what? Slim. Yeah. I have cue cards, so I'll get to the cue cards. Yeah, so it's slim. But again, at 3.7, we're in extraordinary times. Interest rates have already moved back to close to an all-time low. Unemployment has moved back to an all-time low or close to it, right? Home price is beginning to stabilize. And you look up and you go, are we in a good place? What do you think?
I feel like we're right at the top, right? We're either just on the downslope, like the sales indicate,
Yeah.
and we just don't know, is it going to accelerate in that direction, or are we going to level off? Because a lot of these numbers are really healthy. We've actually seen wage increases.
Well, this
right?
is, by the way, the only reason why you don't see me jumping up and down, these numbers are all great. In the real estate industry, this is like, man, this is like three apples coming up on a slot machine. This is a big deal. This is all a big deal. I tend to think about the market that I'm headed into and not the market that I'm in. Mm-hmm. So you always see my mind going in a different direction. I'm putting on that black hat and I'm saying, okay, well, what's going to happen next? Because more down, right? Going to 3.6 or 3% unemployment seems a little iffy. Interest rates keep going down. That seems extremely iffy to me. Prices going down, I don't think that's going to happen because we're still in a seller's market. Okay. So now you've just got inside the head of Gary Keller. So I look at all of that and I go, it's now time to start preparing for the market that's coming.
It's like a spring that's been compressed.
Yeah.
Right? And you can only push it down so much further. And you know that if momentum goes the other way, things can go fast.
Yeah, that's right.
If interest rates go up with high prices, affordability goes down, all those things can work the other direction too. So we just got to be prepared. We got to lead generate and we got to keep our expenses in line.
That's right. That's exactly right. Right. And so then this becomes the kind of the somewhat mystery of our industry, and that is the lost years of new construction. And the way that lenders worked with speculative builders changed dramatically coming out of the Great Recession, and they're struggling to find their way back. Any thoughts on that?
So, I mean, builders have been dealing with basically the fact that, to make more money on the lots available to them, they've been building at higher price ranges. We're starting to see demand kind of slack off at that top end of the market now, so they're having to come to terms with that. They're also dealing with labor shortages and potentially even prices of materials in different sectors with everything that's going on. And we've actually seen with existing home sales slowing down, the buildup of essentially spec homes, homes that aren't under contract that are completed has actually increased quite a bit this year. So that builders are probably feeling that as well, which is why we think this new home construction is probably going to flatten off despite the fact that we've been below historical norms the last couple of years.
Yeah. So let's look at Canada real quick. So when you look at Canada, the only thing that concerns me a little bit, I like the fact that sales potentially bottomed out. I like that. I don't like that for Canada, and that is the whole point of all the government regulations and everything they were trying to do was to slow that down right there. And it looks like they did it for 1 year.
Yeah, it's interesting. We saw them kind of take their foot off the pedal a little bit with the housing market with a lot of regulation over the last couple of years. We saw a couple years of declines in sales, 1 year decline in price, and now they're actually initiating sort of more programs that are actually going to increase demand for housing, which is focused primarily on first-time buyers. They're allowing people to, in Canada, you can actually borrow from your retirement account to not borrow actually, just simply withdraw from your retirement account to put a down payment on a house. They're increasing the amount you can do that with by about $10,000. And starting in September, they're initiating a program where you can essentially get a 0% interest loan with a 25-year term on it from the government if you're a first-time buyer for up to 5% of a existing home or 10% of a new home. So essentially, you're giving everyone 5 to 10%.
So they're very aggressive in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as it hovers around that and we don't see that again, I'm good. If we see this as a trend back up in any way ahead of inflation, I'm not happy about that.
We don't have a slide for, what we can't see is that affordability has been declining in Canada for about 6 years. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
When you have really bad affordability, it slacks off demand, and that can be a real problem.
And they're still in a balanced market overall, but they're continually flirting with being right back into a seller's market.
Yep.
So let's switch gears. Let's talk about tech funding, because when we make the comment that you're not going to recognize the real estate industry, it's money is causing that, right? It's the enormity of money that is coming into our industry. So this right here gives you a really good sense of how much money since 2013 has been flooded into our industry. And you know, guys, I don't have a chart that says how much money flowed in there in 2007 or 2009. We didn't track it. I guess we could go look. That's astounding. The sheer amount of money. And look at the last 2 years. Look at the size of the money, right? We're talking about $15 billion. And my guess is we didn't see $15 billion go into tech funding for real estate in all the other years combined, or we'd have to go back 50 years and add it all up to even come close to that. So when we say that we're not going to recognize our industry, is that money is being deployed. It's being spent in the industry.
Hey Gary, one thing on this slide that I think is really interesting too is that purple line is the number of unique deals happening. And so what you're seeing is, if you think about it, and most industries will see this kind of pattern where when there's a lot of disruption, every startup and every person has an idea and they come out and they raise some money. And so you see that spread, that purple line grow as more and more investors are placing more and more bets on more and more companies. An interesting thing happened this year, which is the amount of bets being placed has significantly reduced.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of opportunity for new players. What's happening now is the winners that are left are getting the rest of the funding. And so you're actually seeing consolidation happen within the players that are left on the field. And that's a pretty interesting moment in this trend.
Well, that's not an insignificant, when you make that statement that less deals, if you look at that purple line, right, the 500, and realize that it's almost coming in half.
That's right.
Right, which means that what you just said is that companies, the money is doubling down on the players that are on the chessboard.
That's right. New ideas are not getting funded right now nearly at the scale they were a few years ago. Now it's the players on the chessboard. That's it. That's right.
That's right. So if we hang with us on this graph, by the way, you will understand it. So what we try to do is represent for you where the money went. And if you look at this graphic, the yellow bars represent the areas. Search in 2019, only $51 million went into search. Why?
People believe that is on opportunity to get maximum returns anymore. And so you'll see they're all going to new spaces. Another really interesting thing that we find an observation is in that post-purchase, no one's investing in the home ownership phase. No one's investing in that. And we see that as a huge opportunity for ourselves and for the agent community. And so you'll see we move more and more into that home ownership phase. But they're all looking to how do they get to the transaction and how they get to the transaction in new spaces.
Yes. You look at brokerages, $425 million. Where'd that money go?
In brokerages, a lot of that's basically a couple of small players. One player in particular raised about half of that.
Yep. One player raised half of that. When you look at the iBuyer, that's where all the money's going.
Yep.
When you look at that, we sit around and we poo-poo iBuyer, right? But the reality is that it's here to stay at some level. I don't think there's any question about that.
I wonder how much of that is, and I don't know the answer, and maybe Ruben can correct me, there's money that's being invested in that company for the technology and for the building of the business. iBuyer also demands a ton of capital to actually run that business. So I think that's artificially going to be inflated a lot because they need to, we'll see when we do our interviews, it takes a lot of money to do that.
That's not the loans. This is the VC funding.
This is just the VC funding.
That's
So
just
there's even more money going in outside of that then.
Yeah, this isn't the other money that they had to do to go borrow the money. Yeah, this is just the running of their businesses. This is not the money that they're using to buy the houses with.
And this money is a rounding error on that money.
Yeah.
So the scale of that money is.
Yes, when you see it like that. By the way, look at mortgage. Isn't that interesting? And yes, it is interesting. Because the mortgage industry in many ways has been as unaffected by tech as the real estate industry, and VC money now sees that as a massive opportunity. We'll talk about it a little later this afternoon, excuse me, but this is exactly why Keller Mortgage was created. We saw what was coming, and our goal was to get way ahead of that, right? I think that the agent tools one is interesting because almost the vast majority of that money went to one company, right? Matterport.
Correct.
Well, and if you really think about this, with the slide,
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
and what the slide tells me is you think about iBuyer, and the way the iBuyers are currently positioned is to allow the iBuyer to go directly to the consumer, which kind of discounts the agent. If you think about the brokerages and the agent tools are the two things that empower agents, which provide the best consumer experience, which is all the data supports that. None of the money from materially is going into helping agents and consumers have better actual experiences. All the money is going to try to create new experiences, and that's where we also think is the opportunity.
Yep, I agree with that statement 100%.
I think another thing with the agent tools thing, Gary, though, is that they're basically saying we own that now. That money stopped flowing in there when we started investing, and they realized that once we own that space, the payoff's not there for the VC money anymore.
It is odd, but I think that you actually affected that right there, and that is that there was a belief that old dogs couldn't learn new tricks. And the second that the biggest old dog in the industry showed that it could out-trick the new dogs, the money dried up.
Yeah.
That's good. That was a really weak clap. So, we're going to have fun today. It's really important that money stopped going, by the way. It's really important to stop that money. This is why we have said publicly for the last 2 years to our competitors, and that is, come on in, the water's fine.
That's right.
Get involved. Absolutely, we need everyone to play in order to stop people from coming outside the industry and trying to affect how you do business in a negative way. The only way to do that is to dry the money up and show them that we can do it too. In fact, we can do it better than them. Okay? And that's the game plan. And that shows you that it actually is working. Right? So let's talk about this idea, the fourth industrial revolution. When someone tells you that you're in an industrial revolution and you realize there's only been 3 others in the history of mankind, you really should sit back and listen for just a second and think about it. So when you look at what was the first one, it was basically manufacturing. And then the second one was, that was the first industrial revolution. The second one was the materials they used. The third was the energy they used. And the fourth is artificial intelligence driven by big data. So in our lifetime, you and I are living our lives in the creation and the maturation of the fourth industrial revolution. So we just wanted to take a minute before we skedaddle off of this subject and try to explain to you in as simple terms as we can what's going on. There's a wonderful book called Platform Revolution. If you haven't read that book, of all the books, of all the places you could go for information, if you simply read that singular book, I think you would sit it down and you would go, aha, I get it. Now, here's the best way we can explain it to you, because there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace, in our industry, because everybody, once we started using the word platform, that we were building a platform, the entire industry immediately said, we have a platform, we have a platform, we built a platform, we've had our platform forever, right? And we just wanted to try as simply as is humanly possible to not nerd out on you, but at the same time give you some functional understanding about what's going on in your industry. So we put together two graphics. We want to show you the platform of the past, which actually for most of our competitors is the platform of the present.
Yes, and the way that we think about this is that you know you're in this world when the agent is the platform. And so the reason those little agent purple lines is because if you're having to log into system 1 and then log into system 2 and use either Excel spreadsheets or VAs or admin staff or chasing down agents to get information or chasing down different systems, if you're doing that work, you're the platform. And those systems may like roughly, loosely log into each other or talk to each other, but they don't actually make your life simpler. That's how you know you're kind of in the old world model of a platform.
Yeah, so the tech on the far left doesn't communicate with the tech on the far right.
Not in a way that allows you to not have to do anything.
Right, that's exactly right. So we just coined the phrase bolt-on technology, because you can bolt all that together, and in the absence of anything else, it actually appears like things are getting better, that the software is potentially even talking to each other. But that's not what's going on.
And the biggest problem with this, when we did all of those research, that year that you and I were building our plan and doing research with our top agents in the labs, the problem with this model is that as your business grows, the complexity grows, and your time inside these systems grows, and your time working with VAs and operational staff grows, and your expenses grow. And so while you're trying to build a scalable real estate business, you find yourself having to scale all these functional operational tasks that don't provide any value to your business. That's the problem with that model.
Right, that's right. So if we look at what the fourth industrial revolution is, it's a tech platform is what you build on, right? The platform becomes the floor with an endless consumer experience ceiling. So the platform is built around two ideas. Number one is connected data. And connected data simply means that the data has been trained for a specific industry, and then the data has been pieced together to create what you would call microservices, okay? So you do that, and then you prime the pump for your AI, and when you are ready, when you have those two things, you're ready to go build specific application dashboards. So the difference between that screen and that screen is in here, the software is in those circles. Here, the software is in the purple. Did I say that right?
That's exactly right.
The software is in those circles, and it doesn't actually effectively talk to each other.
Which, again, you feel that when you talk to your technology vendors and they have to spend energy and time integrating other systems. That's because they have to go into their independent software code and get them to talk to each other. And a platform is completely different. The platform just says, here's how you talk to our ecosystem, and everyone can plug in, which we're going to talk about more tomorrow.
So again, the simple, yeah, you're going to see AI in the new command.
That's right.
You'll begin to experience it today. You'll start seeing the benefits what artificial intelligence can do if everybody is connected to the same platform. So again, imagine that the consumer is using your app, and because, remember, the consumer is just using a dashboard, their phone is just a dashboard, right? A set of applications. The software is actually the same software that you're using for command. It's the same software, it's the same platform. As a result of that, every movement that the consumer makes when they use the software, right, the application, the platform is aware of it. So the platform starts looking for patterns. So my guess would be by next summer, I'm going to make that prediction. by next summer, we will be in a position, because we will have what you would say the consumer used it. Some of them decided to list their home or buy a home. Some of those closed, and the platform knows all of that. It immediately goes out like a heat-seeking missile and starts looking for patterns. So now you're in your database, and you get an alert that says you should call Gary Keller. Why? Because the pattern that we're noticing in his use of your personal app and browser says that he's going to list his home in the next 90 days. Here's the bigger thing. Here's the bigger thing. This is what, yeah, by the way, that changes everything. The industry changes dramatically. Right now, you can buy services who says, we're going to predict that someone's going to buy or sell. But you understand they're using demographic information. They're not using actual behavior around real estate. They're looking at, did they have a baby? Did they get a divorce? They're checking boxes that way. And it's not that that's not legitimate. The problem is it's usually no better than a 50-50 coin toss to see if they're going to take action or not. This is something very, very different. The other thing that AI allows you to do is, as the consumer is using it and you start seeing what they like or don't like, then behind the scenes, your technology company is absolutely changing and morphing what the product is in order for them to have better experiences. So they don't realize what's going on, but kind of like us upgrading command 100 times a week, consumer then will get upgraded 100 times a week in little micro ways.
For each consumer individually. So
Yes.
Every consumer will have a curated experience based off their preferences. And one of the things I'm most excited about,
What he said.
what you just said a second ago, not only can we score based off the pattern and say, you should reach out to Gary, we're actually going to tell you the time of day, and they prefer a phone call, a text message, or email based off watching them.
Cool.
Yes.
Gary, you both said it in different ways. Like, it's a better experience. It's a better experience if you're the agent. It's a better experience if you're the consumer, right? The platform is meeting you doing your business in a simpler, more seamless way, and it's actually doing that for the consumer. We can deliver more value on both sides.
Yes, here's what's going to happen. By this time next year, we're going to be able to look at your database, and with a certain level of certainty, we'll tell you the dollar value of your database.
Yep.
Right? I know the rest of you are stunned.
Where are those cue cards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what AI wants to do is look at your database of 500 people, and it wants to be able to tell you over time what the dollar value of those 500 people are to you, right? Yes. Then it wants to come back and it wants to tell you how to better service them and how to better communicate with them. That's what it wants to do. That's when the industry changes, because you become so smart that your ability to provide one-on-one experiences for each of your consumers without you personally having to provide the one-on-one experiences becomes a reality. That's when technology becomes your friend. Make sense? Yeah. A simple example around mortgage would be at the closing, where you simply say, now that you've closed, all your data is we've loaded this into your personal mobile app and browser for your real estate. And should rates ever change, and you could save money, would you like to refinance? And of course, consumers are always going to say yes. So you go, okay, great. Okay, that's done. You never have to think about it. If rates change and you could save money, you're going to get an alert that says you can save $29 a month on your mortgage with no origination fees and no closing costs. Click yes to lock in your rate. Yeah. Okay. Half are asleep. They don't. By the way, that's how you get customers for life. The thing that scared us, and it's one of the reasons we started Keller Mortgage, is that scenario right there scared the pookie doo out of us. Because if you don't, that's grandfather terms, by the way. Because if you're not the one that can offer that at the lowest possible rate, at no cost, you're out. You are out, okay? And this is exactly why you see us going into insurance and mortgage, because those are the two big places. Look, let's be real clear about something. This Amazon Realogy deal, understand that Amazon offered that to you as well. We said no. And the other half of the room's going, what? I could have gotten a free Echo. What the?
It only costs half your commission.
Yeah, the referral rate is over 40-something% for those leads. Yes, over 40-something% for those leads, by the way. Yeah. The point of me bringing this up, however, is for the fun of it, Josh then just showed them our insurance marketplace, which you can go play with today out in the vendor hall. And their response was,
Ruh-roh.
yeah. And then can we invest?
Yes.
And we said no. Okay. So what you see going on in the industry is, if you look at those headers up there, this is where all the money has been going to try to get ahead of you, right? And the reason why we looked dumb for a couple of years is that we did not spend any more time on bolt-on technology. We stopped. We turned the spigot off. We didn't invest any more money in it. And then we just, privately, we would apologize, but there's nothing we could do because it takes time to build this.
There's actually a story that I think it's pretty cool. That was about 18 months in. We started telling the world what our plans were, what we saw the vision. We saw this stuff coming in these conversations, and we just assumed all the other large companies were doing the same thing. And so we imagined that there was this like invisible race, that we're all racing to this finish line. And so as soon as we came out and said this is what we're doing, and we had this our first toe in the water, we assumed everyone else was going to put their toes in the water and would be off to the races, and it was like quiet. And everyone's basically the opposite. They're like, we don't do technology. We're a real estate company, or that's silly. Why would you do that? And you and I actually had a real, in my mind, like authentic human moment where we looked at each other the next Monday meeting. We go, are we crazy? Like, is this, what's going on? And we went back to our data. We went back to the research. We went back to everything. And we came back, no, this is right. This is the only natural place. This is the only natural conclusion of this journey.
It's the only way our people win.
But we were shocked. And in that moment that we looked at each other and we said, like, is this, why are we the only ones doing this? Now, fast forward a few years, and I'm on a panel recently, and now they're talking about their vision, which is our past. And other people are coming out with their rolling out things, which are our past. In fact, one of my favorites is I saw a screenshot of one of these new ones who a few years ago said we were silly, and they just did a hype video, if you will, on the product. And there's a screen that looks exactly like one of our screens, which was like awesome. It's flattery. The problem was, it was the first version of our screen that we rolled out a year ago. Not good.
Well, the issue again is you have to have the ability to innovate in real time. That's it. Yes. And that's number one. Number two, you have to have the data all connected so you can create better experiences for your customer. That's the game. That's it. And the only way you can do that is this. Bolt-on technology doesn't scare anybody because anybody can do it. If you can raise some money, you can do bolt-on technology. However, this takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. But the problem is there's no catch-up. What I constantly hear people tell me is, well, don't you think everyone's going to catch up? And this is what I say to them: show me catch-up. There's only way catch-up looks like this, right? As long as we don't stop innovating, as long as we don't stop looking at the data and building AI in order to create better experiences, folks, there is no catch-up. There is no. Yeah. By the way, if you think there is catch-up, then how come someone didn't catch up with Amazon? How come someone didn't catch up with Google? Yeah. How come someone didn't catch up with Netflix? How did they not catch up? Because the challenge is is that they are so far ahead on curating the experiences that once the consumer starts enjoying those curated experiences for them personally, they have no reason to go, right? Now, the analogy that we use, I'll say this and we'll leave. The analogy that we always use is mobile banking industry. And that is, the mobile banking industry was very famous for, hey, 6 months free checking, we got a waffle iron or a juicer, and we have Starbucks coffee in the lobby, come do business with us. And we would just switch and always have free checking, right? And then someone came up with mobile banking, right? Direct deposit, direct pay. And so then we all went, that's awesome. Finally, the banking industry gave us something that really is significant. And we went, yeah, man, I'm going to download all that. And then now that you're doing it, you're loving it, and someone comes along and says, it's catch-up time. I've now built the same thing, so why don't you just switch over to me, and I'll send you a waffle iron also. And you and I look at them and we go, I'm good. That's too much brain damage. I've now got all my stuff in here, right? It knows everything I need it to know, and I don't have a good enough reason to switch. So what the real estate industry hasn't counted on, and I don't know why, is there is no catch-up. There is no catch-up in this. And that is, whoever can get to the consumer first, meaning you. If you can go to your database and offer them a unique experience that in real time begins to morph itself into what they want it to be, and then someone else comes along later and goes, hey, I got whiskey and cigarettes, and I've got and mine now does that. The problem is that, yeah, yours does that, but there's 6 months or a year or 2 years of the consumer now building their life into that app, into that browser. Can you internalize that? Yes or no? Okay. Because that's the thing that scares the out of us. Because if we weren't the ones doing it on your behalf, giving this to you for you to go do, we'd be scared. I mean, I would actually be terrified on your behalf, because what would you do?
Which is why I also think a lot of our competition is now getting in the game.
And they're late. All right, guys, thank you.